It was no false alarm. That much at least was clear from the expression on P.C. Tolliver's face when Banks and the others reached number 11 Oakwood Mews. After Gristhorpe had issued instructions to send for Dr. Glendenning and the scene of crime team, the three detectives went inside. The first thing Banks noticed when he entered the hall was the music. Muffled, coming from the front room, it sounded familiar. A Bach cantata, perhaps? Then he opened the living-room door and paused on the threshold. The scene possessed a picturesque quality, he felt, which even extended at first to masking the ugliness of the corpse on the sofa. A log fire crackled in the hearth. Its flames tossed shadows on the sheepskin rug and over the stucco walls. The only other light came from 2 red candles on the polished oak table in the far corner and from the Christmas tree lights in the window. Banks stepped into the room. The flames danced and the beautiful music played on. On the wall above the stereo was a print of one of Gauguin's Tahitian scenes, a coffee-skinned native woman, naked to the waist, carrying what looked like a bowl of red berries as she walked beside another woman. As he approached the sofa, Banks noticed that the sheepskin rug was dotted with dark blotches, as if the fire had spat sparks which had seared the wool. Then he became aware of that sickly, metallic smell he had come across so often before. A log shifted on the fire, flames leapt in all directions, and their light played over the naked body. The woman lay stretched out, head propped up on cushions, in what would have been a very inviting pose, had it not been for the blood that had flowed from the multiple stab wounds in her throat and chest, and drenched the whole front of her body. It glistened like dark satin in the firelight. From what Banks could see, the victim was young and pretty, with smooth olive skin and shoulder-length jet-black hair. Bending over her, he noticed that her eyes were blue, the intense kind of blue that makes some dark-haired people all that much more attractive. Now their stare was cold and lifeless. In front of her, on the low coffee table, stood a half-empty teacup on a coaster and a chocolate layer cake with one slice missing. Banks covered one fingertip with his handkerchief and touched the cup. It was cold. The spell broke. Banks became aware of Gristhorpe's voice in the background questioning P.C. Tolliver, and of Susan Gay standing silent beside him. It was her first corpse, he realized, and she was handling it well, better than he had. Not only was she not about to vomit or faint, but she, too, was glancing around the room, observing the details.
"Who found the body?"
Gristhorpe asked P.C. Tolliver.
"A woman by the name of Veronica Shildon. She lives here."
"Where is she now?" Banks asked. Tolliver nodded toward the stairs.
"Up there with the neighbour. She didn't want to come back in here."
"I don't blame her," said Banks. "Do you know who the victim is?"
"Her name's Caroline Hartley. Apparently she lived here too."
Gristhorpe raised his bushy eyebrows.
"Come on, Alan. Let's go and hear what she has to say. Susan, will you stay down here till the scene of crime team arrives?"
Susan Gay nodded and stood aside. There were only 2 rooms and a bathroom toilet upstairs. One had been converted into a sitting room or a study, with bookcases covering one wall, a small roll-top desk under the window, and a couple of wicker armchairs arranged below the track lighting. The bedroom, Banks noticed from the landing, was done out in coral and sea green, with Laura Ashley wallpaper. If 2 women lived in the house, and there was only one bedroom, he reasoned, then they must share it. He took a deep breath and went into the study. Veronica Shildon sat in one of the wicker chairs, head in hands. The neighbour, who introduced herself as Christine Cooper, sat beside her. The only other place to sit was the hard-backed chair in front of the desk. Gristhorpe took it and leaned forward, resting his chin on his fists. Banks stood by the door.
"She's had a terrible shock," Christine Cooper said. "I don't know if she'll be able to tell you much." "Don't worry, Mrs. Cooper," Gristhorpe said. "The doctor will be here soon. He'll give her something. Is there anyone she can stay with?"
"She can stay with me if she wants. Next door. We've got a spare room. I'm sure my husband won't mind."
"Fine."
Gristhorpe turned toward the crying woman